All right, Josh, thank you so much for joining me on the CanMonkey Podcast show. I've been following you a long time on LinkedIn, and every time I uncover one of your new videos or look at you a little bit more deeper, I'm always amazed at how many different things you're actually doing. Like we were just saying, you're not just a property management company that has been able to scale, but you also do other things in the real estate industry, real estate space, a big helper of other individuals. And so a lot of the individuals that are listening to the show or know about CanMonkey are all in the real estate industry, whether they're a host, an owner, an investor, a property management company. And I feel like you have many different facets that maybe can turn something in their head with a new light bulb, a new idea, and maybe give them someone new to follow to get some insight from, and maybe they want to kind of replicate a business that maybe you built. So without further ado, please, Josh, introduce yourself, what you do, your businesses, and how you're helping the real estate, vacation, all those industries.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate you having me. I love doing these. I started probably like 18 months ago, kind of making the rounds. And, like we were talking about a little bit before, I think it is important to put your name out there. I do look more at giving back. You kind of alluded to that. I like to say that this asset class changed my life. I have a terrible background. My father died in prison, all that. Like people joke you should write a book because that would make a good movie. That kind of background, but
Right.
just kind of scratched and clawed, and like literally 2012, long before anybody knew what Airbnb was. I had a one bedroom condo. I listed it on VRBO, and I literally would go crash on friends' houses for like the weekend. That lasted a few months, and I wound up shutting it down. And like came back to it a couple years later. So February 24th of 2016, a day that seared into my brain. By then I had upgraded to a three-bedroom house and rented out a single bedroom. Had a new person in my house every 2 or 3 days for about 18 months. And then I wound up moving out of that and converting that to a whole house rental. And then, now I like to say I play real life Monopoly. People joke like, oh, so you want the hotel on Boardwalk? It's like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. So I sold sold my last short term rental in November 18th of last year. I am building another one now. We have triple net commercial space where my office is for my management company, and we're building one behind it. It's the only way the numbers work as an investor. But personally, I've shifted to kind of boutique inns, boutique bed and breakfasts, with a goal of getting to boutique hotels that are like in the 50 to 70 fee range. So we have two of those now in Charleston, South Carolina, where I am. We're actually under contract for our third one in Savannah, Georgia. That'll be our first one in Savannah. My management company is planning to manage that, and it's just been a lot of fun. So you alluded to helping folks as well too. I kind of a couple years ago started informally a mastermind, and I just put out a LinkedIn post and said, hey, if you want to learn about short term rentals, let me know. And so when I talk to folks, kind of my sales pitch was, I know this sounds weird, but I'll give you anything I've ever created from 10 years of doing this for free. And, just want to help people out because this asset class has changed my life. Just don't steal any business from me.
Right.
And so, we did that informally for the better part of a year. And we still meet. I still talk to each of those folks every other week individually, and then we do like a group call every other Wednesday. And about 9 months into that, it was so fun, and just kind of seeing other people grow, in their own journeys. I said, well, what if we formalize this, and what does that look like? And so we created Keys Collective last year. We actually, the goal is to make it a nonprofit. We are a nonprofit in the state of South Carolina. We've filed the IRS paperwork as well. But yeah, I don't care about, I'm not like the normal, oh, it's easier to make money selling the dream than it is living it. I have no interest in that. I love building the boutique hotel thing and the property management company. But I do genuinely want to give back. And I realized a long time ago I'm a terrible guy at just writing a check. And so this is kind of a way to control the genuine contribution area of my life. But it's been good to me. Our management company, we did $10.1 million in bookings last year, hosted 36,000 guests. Pretty crazy to see now. We actually rolled out medical, dental, vision, life insurance just 36 days ago, January 1st. I like to say Pinocchio is becoming a real boy as far as the property management company is concerned, and we're on track as of today. If we don't close anything else, we're on track to do 15 million this year, up from 10 last year, and our goal is to hit 20. We want to double one more time, and then we're gonna slow it down a little bit. So, but that's it. That's kind of the skinny for me.
But that's phenomenal. I mean, honestly, and it's like, just to kind of dive into that a little bit, it's like, if someone is looking to learn from you, I mean, you are actually one of the perfect people to listen to because you've rented a property, like a room in your property. Not many people will ever have done that, or in the Airbnb space, they've never done that. So you know how to do that if you really want to start from the ground zero. Or if you want to buy a hotel or boutique, here's how you do it too. Like you're from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum. So going from the very beginning, I get, you got to get your feet wet, and you have limited resources. So you go that, I get that. Have you just found over time though that it's just easier to manage more doors in one space, or is it what's with the boutique or with the B&B that you are pivoting to now, that you've seen in your journey?
Yeah, I mean, that's all a numbers game, right? Like I like to say it's just a math equation. So the reason that I think the boutique hotel space is so interesting and so attractive, there's definitely been a huge maturation of the short-term rental industry and that the whole asset class that surrounds it. You have institutional money that's in it now, right? So it's definitely matured a lot. A lot of the people that you saw be successful, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, pre-COVID, can't make it work now. They were able to make the extra money, but now people want hotel amenities with Airbnb prices, right? And so that standard is there now that wasn't necessarily there 10 years ago. From an investor perspective, the two biggest reasons why I love boutique hotels are you can sell individual rooms, which you generally can't do with short-term rentals, depending on, where you are from a regulatory perspective, and you have no liability for doing a single night. And so at some point, I had an 8 bedroom, 8 bath short term rental with a buddy of mine, and that place absolutely crushed it. You're hosting bachelorette parties, weddings, Thursday to Sunday, but then Sunday to Wednesday, Sunday to Thursday, you had nothing, right? And if you did have something, the rate was so low, it became a liability. And so you really kind of get around that with being able to rent each individual room by the night. It's also a very different experience. We serve breakfast at those properties. We have little, turn down chocolates. We have bikes available that people can take. One of the properties has a pool. It's a different. It's much more of a hotel experience, but it's definitely the numbers are better from an investor perspective, I think.
And then and when you're doing that, I'm sure like the logistics of it is a lot easier too, because like your maintenance, your cleaners are all in one spot too. So from that aspect of it, you're not having to really spin the wheel even more because you already have a
Totally,
team in one spot, right? That makes a
totally.
lot of sense. And then when you're running that, I mean, do you have different pricing on those days? Like you mentioned, like Thursday to Sunday, but then like I never really thought about that from a hotel. Like, am I just paying less Monday to Wednesday than I would, because is
Yeah,
that how the same
definitely.
thing happened? Interesting.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting because it's a lot more rate management. It's a much more mature space, right? In terms of the hotel industry that's been there for a long time. But yeah, it's still the same type of thing. I mean, you're gonna for a random Tuesday in Charleston in January, you're gonna pay a super low rate. You try to stay on a Friday in May or June, I mean, it's 5x what you would pay on the other day. So it very much fluctuates, just like dynamic pricing and short-term rentals. And as a result, you can take advantage of that as well too.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I like what you said earlier about when you're helping people or teaching them, you're saying you're better than just writing a check. And it reminds me of that quote, you can give a man a fish or you can teach him how to fish. And that's kind of like what reminded
Exactly.
what you said. So when you're meeting with these individuals who are raising their hand and saying, Josh, I need your help, I'm sure you're asking them some qualifying questions beforehand. Based off what they're saying, are you kind of steering them into, okay, you have one property with a bedroom in it. Do you want to rent it out? Or are you kind of going toward more of another version now because you've kind of seen everything?
Yeah, no, so I started originally with three people. It was interesting because I think they were kind of trying to figure out what they wanted to do originally, 18, 24 months ago. Two of them were a couple, and they had just had their first short-term rental, so there's lots of questions, technology and staffing and all of those things. And I think initially it was like, oh, I want to do what this guy's doing and build this big property management company. And after a few months, it was like, we don't really want to do that. We want more of a lifestyle business. We want to own a couple beach houses and we want to manage a couple that are right in the area. They bought their first beach house last year. They renovated it. They literally just launched it in the last week. So it's available for booking now on Isle of Palms here outside of Charleston. So that's been cool to kind of see them go through that multi-million dollar renovation. And And the other guy, he was doing rental arbitrage, which is actually how I started my management company. It always made me uncomfortable. You have none of the upside of real estate in terms of equity appreciation and depreciation on your taxes, and you still have the liability of making the rent payment every month. But people do it because they don't have capital, right? So I had experience with that. He actually sold his arbitrage business, and moved out of state, got married, had a kid, and now he's buying hotels across the country. In terms of Keys Collective, the way that I looked at it was coming into this, what would I wish I would have known? And who is that? So, attorneys, I have a CFO across my little corner of the world now. That's changed my life, converting everything to QuickBooks. She sends me monthly balance sheets and P&L, right? Just normal stuff that you would expect from a CFO. But she has 20 years of Four Seasons hospitality accounting
Mm,
experience, and now, 5 years of short-term rental accounting experience. So, that specific virtual assistants are big in this industry. So a guy that owns a virtual assistant company, all the way up to my buddy Dustin Abney, who actually lives in Charleston, but he's raised millions of dollars of venture capital and acquired 10 companies in the last 3 years. And he now has over 500 listings under management with his company Portoro. He's been a huge friend of ours, and I'd like to think we are for him. I always feel like I get more value from him than he gets from us, but it is nice to have somebody in the area that's building a property management company. But that's a completely different experience, and most people don't want to go raise venture capital, But we wanted to create something where regardless of where they were on the spectrum, even if you want to rent your bedroom out or your house, all the way to, oh, I want to raise VC money, that we would have access to those resources. 1031 exchange experts, CPA help, finance, bookkeeping, virtual assistants, and then just, folks with different pieces of experience within this industry. Probably a little bit unique in that I started with arbitrage, actually sold those contracts, and then, kind of played monopoly up to hotels. But most folks just kind of specialize in one thing. And so you're right, we absolutely have them complete a questionnaire that actually can be done on the website at keyscollective.org, and that goes directly to Jay Kramer, who's one of the original guys. He's also on the board of directors. Let me back up a little bit. I joined a mastermind myself about 3 or 4 years ago now. I didn't even leave corporate America until 3 years ago. I was still kind of moonlighting, and it just changed my life. And so the name of that mastermind is Go Abundance. I'm still in it. Have my accountability pod. We talk on Zoom every Monday. Guys are across the country, from me down to Florida, over to LA, and up to Boston. And so that has the accountability of people just you saying what your goal is. And then after a few weeks of that, if you're not doing it, then someone's like, dude, what's up? Like, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But clearly you're saying you want to, and there's nothing going on, right? And so after 3 or 4 years of that, I mean, I can just see there's a very tangible difference in my life in terms of that daily accountability. And so I think that's huge, especially when you're trying to go outside of your comfort zone and do something new. People hate to fail. Our education system's not taught up to encourage failure. And so, being able to come into something like this, and we do ask them questions. A lot of it is actually about their life. Where are you? I mean, are you married? What things do you care about with respect to faith, friends, family, finances, your career or businesses? I mean, it's different for everybody. And so, I'm not trying to be like a cookie cutter person. I would love to help 1,000 people. The reality, I think, is because of the way we're doing it, I think even helping 50 people would have a tremendous impact, right? You're really changing 50 lives who then can go change 50 other lives individually. So that's kind of the ripple effect, I guess you could say, that we're going for with that. But yeah, we really want to hone in on exactly how can we best help this person immediately and give them value immediately. And some people don't know coming in, and that's fine as well too. But yeah, we really try to hone in on that, and then really kind of assign a mentor to them. Hey, this is what this person's trying to do. Please give them a call, tell them your experience, and develop that relationship with them a little bit. And then from there, if we'll do different topics, whether it's 1031 tax exchange or even just STR bookkeeping. Um, if you want to hire a virtual assistant, what should you do? And Keys also has referral programs set up with all of these folks as well too. my whole thing is, again, I don't need money from the mastermind, so any referral fees we collect, those get donated to housing and finance related nonprofits. So that's it's really important to me to kind of give back. I really do view it as the charitable contribution kind of arm of my little corner of the world. And I don't want to be another guy that sells a course, because there's enough of that on Instagram and YouTube now.
You know, there really is. There's everyone's a guru, but I think the difference with you though is that you've done it all, and that's the thing that from what I've seen from people that they can talk about it, and it's like those teachers, they're teachers because they don't want to do, and
Yeah,
you're actually doing both. You're actually doing both, and I think what the hardest thing for me in the business, especially in my position, that there was like no one really doing what we were doing, so I had no one really to go to and look up to. But when I was growing my business, there's people I could go to and say, hey, here's a hallway. Which door should I skip? Where should I go? And that's huge. So for you and what you're providing to these people who that are interested, that actually do want to get help. You're right. Not everyone wants help. They say they do, but they don't want to put in the work and the effort of following the 10 steps on how to make $1 million. They might stop at step 6 or 7, but they don't want to do all 10, even though you're giving them exactly how to do it because you've done it. I think the main thing is, having that mentor and having the accountability partner. And you're right. Speaking into existence is huge. A believer in manifestation and the
same.
universe, and
Huge.
I think a lot of it is just putting it out there. And of course, it should be scary, And if it wasn't scary, then you would already done it. But having those people in your corner that have done it gives you just so much courage and confidence. And I think that's what you're really bringing, along with the tools and how to do it and the connections, obviously. But a lot of it is just saying like, hey, you're holding their hand, and that's what it really sounds like. And you kind of answered this already, I think, but is there something that you would steer someone not into? And not that you said you wouldn't do arbitrage, we kind of was talking about arbitrage, and you were kind of saying how it wasn't really a lot of upside. If someone's talking about that, I know obviously from doing from experience, it helps you get your feet, moving and get the ball, the ball rolling. But is there now a time if you're talking to someone and they have maybe some assets and they're a little bit more wealthy or whatever, they have more to lose, would you say, hey, don't really get into this arbitrage thing? Or is there a case by case, or is it still good for anyone? Because you said you could sell the contracts. I didn't really think about that. So you
Yeah.
could like build it up and then
Yeah.
sell it if you wanted to.
Yeah, totally. In that instance, I'm a data dork. I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, not just a vision guy, but I love the data behind all of it. And so I had actually created a very targeted list of 130 people in the specific short-term rental overlay downtown that were not yet short-term rentals. And so, that's where the couple contracts came from. They got an unsolicited offer on that building like 3 months into the 2-year lease. And so I very quickly said, "Hey, I know I'm the squeaky wheel here. Everything has a price." And so I wound up selling the furniture for probably like 60, 70% of what I paid for it. The new owners actually had me run it through peak season, and I cut them a killer deal because they were so great during the transaction. And then they gave me a $50,000 check at closing as well. So I wound up probably getting around $75,000, and I kind of used that as the seed money to start my management company. But yeah, I think different things are appropriate for different people at different phases. I would never tell someone who is worth $10 million dollars to go do arbitrage. I just don't think that makes sense. And quite frankly, somebody that is worth $10 million, their time is valuable, and they don't want to do the things that comes with that either. And they also want the depreciation upside of owning the dirt. So I think it totally is specific to situations. And it really depends on where people are. I'm a big believer in like meeting people where they are as well. You don't have to be, it's a different conversation if you're the 10 million, $100 million guy, right? As opposed to, I have nothing to start with. What do I do? And I think either way, the big message, and I mean, this, building a business, there's no light switch, and part of the biggest issue, and one of the reasons I wanted to do this, is I had seen so many people on YouTube and Instagram, and they just, they did it once, or they did arbitrage once successfully, coming out of COVID in 21 and 22, when everyone crushed it. Because surprise, when you lock people up for 18 months, they're willing to pay anything to go on vacation. And then they make a course about it. And it just, I started looking up some of these folks and kind of going down a rabbit hole. And I'm like, this person hasn't done anything, and it almost scared me a little bit. So I think you got to meet people where they are, but it is important to have like the doing piece behind it. And the mentors and the accountability are huge. And then the mindset, like you talk about manifestation. My wife gives me crap because I'm 43 and I have a shirt that says "Manifest this shit." But it's huge to me. Like I believe in leaning into those positive thoughts. Like I don't it's the whole quote of like the person who says it can't be done is always interrupted by the person that's doing it. I don't have any of that in my life. Like my big hairy audacious goal, or BHAG if you're a Vivid Division guy, is to own a piece of an NFL team. Those teams are trading for $6 billion per team now, right? There's specific requirements. You got to own at least 30%, right? Do the math, right? That's a couple $1 billion. Hardly anybody's ever going to meet that. I don't want somebody around me that's going to be like, why are you even trying? The reality is, even if I fail, I'm still going to be okay. And oh, by the way, it's more about the journey and trying to get there than it is the achievement of the actual goal itself. So yeah, there's too many. We live in an instant gratification society, unfortunately, but there's too many folks that think it's just a light switch. You got to embrace the suck for a little while and lean into it. I mean, I can see it's palpable, it's tangible, the people around me now leaning into the momentum. But man, as you know, that it takes years to get to a certain point where you actually feel comfortable as an entrepreneur. And even then, I don't know if you ever really do.
I love everything you just said, and I agree to everything 1,000%. Yeah. Eh, my before I lose this train of thought, you talked a lot about Charleston. Is that the only area
Mhm.
that you're helping individuals in, or
No.
are you helping people? Okay, because you're obviously there and you know it really well, but I'm sure also from what you gathered in your data guy, you can probably look at anywhere now and kind of
Oh
tell
yeah,
if
for sure.
yeah, okay. So you
Yeah,
get so if
there's
anyone
so
reaches out,
much. Yeah. There's so much publicly available information now. One of the things that we like to do when we do a kind of a deal analysis, or hey, what do we think this revenue can be on a deal, is to use the publicly available information because we like to test how valid it is. And it's been interesting because sometimes people will be like, "That's exactly what I did last year." Or it'll be 5 or 10% off, which is still directionally enough to be able to kind of give some guidance. But yeah, people are all over. The guy that's buying hotels is in Utah. My CFO is in Phoenix, Arizona. The virtual assistant guy is in Michigan. We manage properties, CVP does, in Tennessee. We manage them in Asheville, up in North Carolina, and Charleston, and now we're under contract on the place in Savannah, Georgia. So yeah, I mean it's across the country. Certainly wouldn't say international, but yeah, it's important to me to be able to have that reach too. I don't want to be myopic, and you can't talk about an asset class if the only experience you have is through your little market. That's not it's not realistic, and you shouldn't be giving advice to somebody that could be dealing with completely different market dynamics.
I totally agree. Josh, you are a wealth of knowledge. I could talk to you all day. I'm going to cut off here. We're going to have a part two because this could be
I
hours long. But
love.
again, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on and sharing this knowledge. And again, the audience that that we're sharing this with is right in this realm of real estate where they could be looking and how to what do they do? Maybe they heard a 1031 exchange, but they didn't know exactly how to do it. And then now you can give them someone that they could reach out to. So if there is someone that just listened to this and found what you found said valuable, how do they find you? How do they reach out? How do they go to the right system or website to get in that
Sure.
questionnaire?
Yeah, so the mastermind website is just keyscollective.org. Just like it sounds. People can contact me through my personal website as well too. My last name's Hatter, like the Mad Hatter, but joshhatter.com as well. And I've got a bunch of links on there to be able to kind of reach out and set up time to chat as well too. I'm pretty open with my time. I've gotten a little bit more pickier in the last 2 or 3 years here, but I'll still take a call just to see if I can help somebody. So I'm happy to do it. Would love that.
I love it. And if we could help contribute to your 1,000 people to reach financial freedom, I would love to even help with one. And to your point, even if you're able to only help 50 to 100, they are going to be leaving a ripple effect that's going to be way greater. And
Totally.
to leave it on this, I was told by my uncle who was a financial advisor, and sometimes leaving a legacy is not just monetary. And I feel like that's what you're doing. It's not really about the money. It's really about helping people see things in themselves and helping them better their lives and leaving a legacy of what they're going to think about Josh and what you did with your time, which, is valuable. So again, I appreciate everything you're doing for those individuals out there, helping our, vacation rental industry, helping people know that there's someone actually doing it, not one of these gurus that maybe did 1, 2 deals in 2020, to your point. So it's awesome that you are, putting your hand out there and telling people that, you're a beacon of light for those who, need some help in this industry. So again, Josh, thank you, and looking forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.